Hello, good morning, DevOps! Yes, we are going a bit back in time to celebrate things that happened before Java was born. We are going back to New York in the 1980s and the birth of hip-hop, which coincided with something happening in Europe as well, in the bedrooms of Europe. Teenagers started using computers for fun to make programs that were better than everyone else in a very competitive sense, much like hip hop was. You had the visual arts of graffiti done on a computer, you had the music of the DJs and rappers, and you had the competitiveness of breakdancing. And what I'm talking about is a phenomenon known as the Demoscene. So this started out with people removing the copy protection on games and then putting this little intro in front to say that, hey, we were the ones that did this, just like taggers would write their names on the wall to say that we were here. And this is the story of an era that goes from 1987 till 1997. And it all starts with the release of the Commodore Amiga home computer, one of the best-selling computers in history, and it was a game changer. People had been doing things for fun for a while, but when the Commodore Amiga was released, things changed a lot. So, anyone had an Amiga? Give it up for the Commodore Amiga. And when people put these little intros in front of games, suddenly they became better than the games themselves, at least in a technical sense, and people started just making these things just for fun. So this is something from the Commodore Amiga in 1987. This was made by the Light Circle. You have some of the basic effects that people would do. And people would meet up at these conventions. Loads of kids in a sports arena for a week on end, drinking coffee and Coca-Cola to stay awake, and sitting there together as a social event, programming, designing graphics, composing music on their home computers, and then at the very end, showing off what they had created, and there was a competition, and people voted, and the winner walked home with a prize. Great thing, great thing. This was way before the internet, so if you were to socialize with people with your own hobbies, you would need to go to these events. And these were just some examples of the competitions that you could enter into. And this was much about the limitations of the computers themselves. Because at this time, computers weren't fast. They did not have a load of memory or anything. So welcome to the School of Teenage Engineering and a lesson about vintage technology. Good morning, school's in session. Today we will be talking about something particular known as a television set. You might have seen this at your grandparents' house or some distant relative. This was actually something that people would have in their living rooms. It's a cathode ray tube. And what it is, it's a long tube with a fluorescent screen at the end that fires beams towards you. And it had really strong magnets as well. And those magnets would bend that beam to the side so that the television screen would draw the picture, starting in the upper left-hand corner and then work its way down to the bottom right-hand side. And since computers were attached to television screens, this was something that was manipulated, that was a basis for all of these visual effects that they created. So this is one of the sort of elemental effects that people would do. These are known as raster bars. It's done by timing your code in sync with the television screen beam moving across the screen. And then they would get inventive and realize that we could do this vertically as well, even if the beam goes horizontally. You were only on the Commodore Amiga allowed to have 8 of these on the screen at the same time, but since this was a thing of one-upmanship, people competed in displaying as many sprites as possible on screen. Same thing with dots. Let's get as many dots as possible on the screen at the same time, and there were loads of them by the end. People would do vector graphics, 3D graphics, and Remember, these were kids 16, 17 years old doing university-level maths that they teach themselves. They would also realize how to do this in filled vector graphics, so full-bodied things. This is something that we all have on our PlayStations now, was not that common in the 1980s. And you would have these mesmerizing psychedelic effects, loads of them. So you came up with effect upon effect, and people were inventing all the time. But at some point, could we get some sound on, please? At some point, people started bringing the cinematic experience into this and introducing the element of design and storytelling as well. Scary. So remember, this is a computer that has the capability of displaying 16 colors on screen at the same time in very low resolution. And when we got to around the 1990s, people started making these big productions with loads of these effects being combined together to create new visual experiences timed with the music and sound effects and everything, and loads of things happening. And things changed from just being about manipulating the computer to do things it was not supposed to be able to do, to actually use it to tell a sort of story and have a visually pleasing artwork that you could look at that combined all of these basic elements that had been invented through the end of the 1980s in new ways. So you can recognize there's most of the same building blocks that were there, just as standalone pieces now combined together. Moving around the screen, you have the stars, you have everything, and people were, again, these were 16, 17-year-old kids, figuring out things like physics out. So you can have balls dropping, and again, you're only allowed to have 8 of these on screen. So naughty you putting a lot more, not as many as the balloons in the room though. And this sort of changed the productions that we saw. At the same time, there was something called MTV, Music Television, which was like a all-day radio program that showed music videos. And the longest-running show on MTV was something called The Party Zone. It started at midnight, went until 8 in the morning, and then the chill-out zone when it was time to come down started. And this was obviously an inspiration to some of the people. Let's meet some of them.
Nei, ikke kødd da, vi skal jo se, din fleskefjes.
Yeah, sorry about the Norwegian there, but it's texted. So these boys, this girl is the one we saw's girlfriend. They took them into the local school, set up a video camera, and just filmed them in front of a white wall to vectorize their movements. So they created a demo that was like a music video that you would see on MTV. This is all done in real time on a Commodore Amiga computer, and the music is playing in real time. Everything happens real time, and it's stored on a 512 kilobyte floppy disk. This thing actually ended up being shown on MTV as well, so legacy to that. So at some point, people believed that we had come to the limits of the Commodore Amiga, one of the greatest home computers ever, and started developing things for the PC and the x86 architectures. All of this was programmed in assembly. And this was a milestone made by some kids from Finland, where they took all of the basic elements, but they leveled this up a lot. So things were looking much smoother. The music was more banging, more different from what you heard, and the effects were just amazing. You had loads of pixels on screen, these tunnels you fly through, and the action was there all the time. And I can tell you, in 1993, when this was released, people were blown away. They had never seen a computer do anything like this before. And people believed that, well, this must be the end of it. Well, it inspired loads of people to make cover versions of this one. So this is a cover version of this demo done on the Commodore 64 computer from 1981. And they recreate all of these little things there. This is another one done in just 8 kilobytes of storage, where they did the entire thing on Windows for that. This is one done for the Atari ST computer, which was similar to the Commodore Amiga, but much inferior. This is one done for the Pebble smartwatch, so you can have it on your wrist and take it along with you out. This is probably my favorite. This is one known as the Second Real Pony. It's done in Windows Media Player, and it's My Little Pony themed. Loads of ponies, which is always fun. Someone even did a live-action version of this one, where they recreated the effects with a nice a cappella soundtrack. If you get sound up a bit, feel free to sing along while I tell you about the Finnish death metal band, the Children of Bodom. The Children of Bodom, for their debut album, used the entire cinematic opening soundtrack from the Second Reality demo as the starter or the opening of their album. So this thing has had influence way outside the world of computers. So we come to 1997, still in Finland, and for something that started 10 years earlier, just as someone writing their name in front of video games they had removed the copy protection from, we had these mesmerizing, real-time rendered, assembly language programmed works of art that were really abstract and pieces that had merits of their own. And I find this thing beautiful. And other people as well. In 2020, Finland was the first country in the world to enlist the Finnish Demoscene on the UNESCO list of cultural world heritage from Finland. In 2021, Poland followed in their steps, and 2 years ago, the Netherlands did the same thing as well. Some of the things you saw here were made by British kids. So this might be the right time for you to go back in your history, look at the old productions by people like the Lost Boys, and really appreciate the value in the work that these teenage kids did in their spare time, because it was an absolute marvel. I'll leave you with a collage of great Demoscene productions. I hope you have a great DevOps and be inspired to do something different with the computers that you use at work every single day. I'm Anders Norås. Thank you for having me, and have a great conference.
Anders,